Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Rock Video Rental. I am Brandon, and with me, as always, is Caleb. And we are rolling along through Mad Max month. And we're going to be talking about Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. But before we do that, we'll do like we always do. And Caleb, have you been watching anything interesting?
Yeah, so a little bit more active than most weeks. So I binged I think it was the last three episodes of the Fallout series.
Rock?
So good stuff there. You know, if you are familiar with the Fallout series, you would probably like it. If you are a video game fan, you would probably like it. If you like post-apocalyptic movies, you would probably like it. So all that rolled into one.
Post-apocalyptic, like Mad Max.
Yeah, crazy. But then I also watch so this is something that I watch usually when I'm kind of like doing stuff around the house, or usually the main things are like doing dishes or cleaning up in the kitchen or something like that. I have my laptop out and I have been watching old Michigan football games from the 1997 football season.
Rock?
So that's been kind of fun and interesting. I watched a few of those, going through all that stuff. I kind of wish that they had the old commercials included.
Oh, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that would have been a good time, but no, it's just like the gameplay stuff. So,
That's one of those things, is like a tape of that has to exist somewhere.
oh yeah,
Somebody has to have that.
gold mine.
Right.
Um, so that's the stuff that I've been well, Bob's Burgers thrown in there, of course. But I mentioned last episode that back around 2015 they made a Mad Max video game,
Yeah.
and so it was actually free on PlayStation Plus, and so I got that a while ago, and so I
Hmm.
installed it and I started playing it this week. um so it's kind of like I mean, it's just like another story in the Mad Max saga. I don't think
Okay.
it's really connected with anything. I don't think there's any character, like I think they come up with their own new villains and that whole kind of thing. Um, so it's pretty interesting. The only thing that is kind of maybe connected directly with characters in the movie is that he does have a dog companion.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, so the game seems to be really fun. It's an open world kind of thing. It would probably kind of remind you of something like, GTA with side missions and all that. But I can't remember what company developed the game, but they made kind of almost like two crucial errors, in my opinion, that make it a little bit of a struggle. And one of them is that you cannot change the button controls.
Ugh.
Like you are stuck. Like there's only two different options, and all it does is switch two different buttons. So like if you're used to like running by pressing down the joystick, guess what? You can't do that. You can't make it do
Mm-mm.
that because they don't give you that freedom to do that.
Lame.
Um, so that stinks. So because you have to kind of like almost relearn the buttons because it's so different from everything else. But then the other thing that makes it a bit difficult is that you have no control over the sensitivity. Like they don't let you adjust the sensitivity of your
Ugh.
your joysticks, your controller, nothing. Um, so that makes it kind of a pain and a little bit of a little bit of a frustration. If you can get past that, then you should enjoy the game. Because if you enjoyed the movie, everything's been pretty interesting. Like the fighting, obviously the iconic part of, fighting with other people on the cars and everything, is pretty awesome and all that. So I'm not very far in it at all, but I've had a good time so far.
Rock. Sounds like a good game.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, man. Some games with their controls that are like super sensitive that you can't change. It's brutal.
Yeah.
I had this dirt bike racing game for PS4. It was like one of the MXGP games,
Mm.
and like trying to turn your dirt bike around corners was such a pain in the butt. Like I like rage quit and never played it again.
Yep. Been there.
Yeah. So stuff I've been watching, King of the Hill. Um, I watched the latest episode in the Who Killed WCW series they're doing.
Hmm.
That was pretty good. I started watching this show on Netflix, Baby Reindeer, kept popping up,
Okay.
and I thought it was gonna be more of like a thriller, but it's more of like a comedy
Okay.
thriller, and I don't know, it just kind of threw me out. We also started watching this show on Hulu called Under the Bridge, and it's about this cop who's trying to figure out who killed this teenage girl and whatever. And I got to the point, like the first episode was really good, and I watched the second episode, and then I watched the third, and I just got to the point where I didn't really know what was going on. It was just irritating me, so I turned it off. Maybe I was like, maybe I'll come back another time when I can pay really close attention to it. But like I just didn't have the mind for it. Um, I watched the latest episode of Joe Bob's Last Drive-In. He did Donnie Darko, so that was pretty cool. I mean, I've seen that movie plenty of times, but it was just kind of interesting hearing some of the facts and stuff he had about it.
Rock.
And it's been a while since I have watched that movie. I think the last time I watched it was in college, so it was a little while ago.
Crazy
Oh,
movie.
yeah, pretty much. And still don't know what the heck that movie's about. And I always forget that Drew Barrymore's in it, and I always forget that Patrick Swayze's in it.
Yeah. The Patrick Swayze is the really weird one to me.
Yeah, it's a very strange movie for Swayze.
Hmm.
But yeah, other than that, just Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. So let's just jump right into it and talk about it. Mad Max 2, The Road Warrior. It is from 1981 and is directed by George Miller. Oh, the plot is in the post-apocalyptic Australian wasteland, a cynical drifter agrees to help a small gasoline-rich community get rid of a horde of bandits. The cast, we got Mel Gibson as Max, Bruce Spence as the gyro captain, Michael Preston as Papagallo, Max Phipps as the toady, Vernon Wells as Wes. Um, I am gonna slaughter this name because it is Swedish, but Kel Nilsson as the Humongous, and Emil Minty as the Feral Kid. There's a lot more people in this, but those are probably the major ones.
Hmm.
I think this is maybe the second time I've seen this
Okay.
because I do remember um Lord Humongous with his hockey mask looking like Jason Voorhees,
Yeah.
predating Jason Voorhees with a hockey mask.
Nice.
Um, yeah, and that there was a wrestling company of in the 80s that ripped off his look, and I think they had it was either Kane or the Undertaker. They had dressed up, and his name was Lord Humongous. I think it was Kane, but uh, yeah, iconic look for the villain in this one.
Yeah. Well, what I find hilarious that I always like kind of have the thought in my mind is not so much in the first one, but you start seeing it happening in this one. I think it's more so like Mad Max 2 and Beyond Thunderdome, but I feel like somebody just went shopping for props at a sex shop
S&M.
because there's just so much leather and chains and metal.
I think they did actually. It's kind of like they're all dressing like they're cast-offs from Judas Priest.
Right.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that that they did that. It might be in my my trivia and facts, or at least I saw it when I was doing some research. But I think they got a lot of stuff from S&M places,
Um,
but it doesn't surprise me.
well, one thing to kind of get this conversation rolling, an interesting part for me is the story and the setting seems odd
Yeah.
in contrast to the first movie,
Hmm.
where it's just like the first movie was almost kind of like, I don't know, imagine if the world system shut down, like government no longer exists, and imagine what it would look like after, I don't know, 5, maybe 10 years.
Yeah.
That's kind of what that looked like. Where this one feels like, okay, imagine that, but then imagine after 5 or 10 years, an apocalypse happens where they drop bombs and all living things basically, for the most part, die, like plants and animals.
And people are killing each other over gasoline.
Yeah. And that's like, you know, 5 or 10 years after that. So this is making me feel like it's a long time after the first Mad Max movie, but in reality, it's not.
Yeah. It's like they almost wanted to do more with the first one, but didn't have the budget to do it. And since it was popular, they had the budget to do it in the second one.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a fair amount of movies that are like that. Evil Dead is like that, where the second one's almost like a remake of the original one
Hmm.
and just done better. And I feel like that's kind of what they did with this one as well.
Yeah. And I could kind of see that. I mean, that's kind of what I figured. So, kind of giving it the benefit of the doubt and everything. So,
Yeah.
so this one more clearly sets up the universe of Mad Max and is more the vision of what everybody thinks of Mad Max when they talk about it. Because hardly, if anyone knows Mad Max and has seen any of the movies, I would say it is a small percentage of them that have actually seen the first one.
Yeah.
Because everybody else thinks of Mad Max 2 or Beyond Thunderdome or Fury Road or Furiosa. So,
Yeah, I will say that this movie was more action packed. It kept my attention a lot more than the first one did.
oh yeah, the flow was so much better.
Yeah, it was paced a lot better, and it was a fast paced movie. There wasn't really much downtime. I
Hmm.
mean, there was a little bit, not it's not as like fast paced as Fury Road. I mean, we'll get to that when we get to it, but um it was a lot picked up from the first one, which had like 45 minutes of downtime in the middle of it.
Yeah.
I would say that the intro to this was awesome.
Hmm.
The narrator
Yeah.
and kind of giving some exposition of like how the world is and setting it up more than what the first one did.
And I totally agree with you where I think it's kind of one of those things where it's just like the first one was supposed to be more like this one.
Yeah.
And so giving it the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, I mean, they set it up fantastic. So I, I mean, a little bit of something, and hopefully I'm not going to steal something from your facts and trivia. But they wanted to be very specific with the continuation, and so if you actually look, and so this is part of the whole thing supporting the idea that this is following up very closely after the first movie is Mad Max's outfit.
Hmm.
If you notice, basically it's what he was wearing before, where it was like kind of like a leather biker outfit,
Yeah.
but his right sleeve is ripped. I think it's the right one, is ripped off because the description was that if he had gotten medical attention, they would have just ripped the sleeve off the jacket rather than taking his arm out.
Yeah.
So
Because
they
his arm
ripped,
got ran over by a motorcycle.
yep. At the end of the last one, his arm got ran over by a motorcycle and then he got shot in the leg and he had a brace on his leg.
Hmm.
So relatively close after that. I mean, unless he continues wearing it in the other ones, I can't remember specifically just because I mean, the brace makes me think that his leg hasn't fully healed. Maybe it never fully heals, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I did notice that. That's a pretty cool continuity, which a lot of movies would probably just ignore.
Yeah.
Um, I'll say one thing that caught me off guard is this thing was like shot in Panavision with the really super widescreen, where even if you have a widescreen TV or a widescreen computer that like I was watching it on, there's still the black bars on the top and the bottom. Uh, it makes me think of another movie that I watched like that was How the West Was Won. You ever seen that?
No.
That's a really long movie, and it's Panavision like that. Super duper widescreen. And I just wonder, like, when they shoot those movies, like, is there any way you could ever watch them when there wasn't like the bar on the top and the bottom? Because even movie theaters, like the screens are still 16:9.
Yeah. No, I don't know.
I was like, what Panavision's like what 16:5 or something? Like it's gotta be close to that. But I don't know. Again, like the camera work was great.
Yeah. No, it definitely there were definitely certain things that you saw continue from the first one. Um and the action and the cinematography
Yeah.
was definitely one of those. Also, isn't the music composed by the same person?
I didn't look that up, but it sounded good.
I thought
Sounded like the first movie.
I thought I saw the same name. I couldn't remember. So,
Most
um,
likely. Usually directors like have their guys and
mhm.
that's who they use.
But yeah, no, they definitely kept the good stuff and then they added some more spice to
Hmm.
the mix. With like just I mean, you can say what you want about Toe Cutter in the first one, but Humongous is is awesome. But
Yeah,
we
like he's just
oh
that over the top um villain that you needed in an 80s movie. We
yeah.
talked about last time like how what makes a great movie is having a great villain like, you know, Darth Vader in Star Wars. And like
Hmm.
you have an iconic looking villain in this. Well, and even like um Vernon Wells, aka Bennett from uh Commando as Wez. Like that's another iconic looking villain.
Yeah. Well, then not only that, but the he wasn't even the main villain. It wasn't Humongous. Who was the who's it was it an the Afro guy, the guy in Weird Science?
Yeah, that was Wez.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the dude that was Bennett in Commando.
That dude was Bennett in Commando?
Yeah, he was. And then he played the same character in Weird Science that he does in this,
Yeah.
basically.
Okay, I did
Yeah, he
not
was
make
the
the
guy with the
connection.
mohawk.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that
Yep,
was really
that's Vernon Wells. He played Bennett in Commando.
okay. Dang, that's I did maybe we talked about that before. I did not make that connection.
Yeah.
But the way that it works out with because essentially he comes across as you're expecting him to maybe be the main bad guy
Hmm.
with how the movie starts and everything, but then when things start to escalate, Humongous comes out, and you're like, oh
Yeah.
crap.
Oh, that's the final boss.
Yeah.
It's
Wait.
like Wez is Sagat and Humongous is M. Bison.
Well, I gotta say, like, not to spoil anything for later, I must say it's pretty disappointing how it ends for
Yeah.
Humongous. But yeah, it's they definitely were kind of creating that hierarchy of villainy or whatever.
Yeah, I really wanted like hand-to-hand combat between Humongous and Max.
Yeah, something more.
just like the show, like, because Humongous obviously he's humongous. He's a big ripped dude. Like, I wanted to see him, like, pick up Max and throw him, and something more that I guess maybe you'd see more in an Arnold movie
Yeah,
or a
so
Stallone movie.
not to spoil things, because let's face it, if you haven't seen it already, I mean, it's on you. But I think they maybe got that memo for what they did in Thunderdome.
Okay. It's been a while since I've watched Thunderdome, and I don't think I've ever seen all of it.
Okay.
I've seen bits and pieces.
Yeah. So we'll probably talk about that more next week. So
Rock. It made me laugh when Humongous gives his speech,
hmm
and because his tribe's trying to go in and steal gas from this group of rebels or whatever that Max is with, and he's got like this lackey that comes up, and he's like doing his intro, and he calls him the Ayatollah of rock and rolla, which is something that Chris Jericho used to call himself in the late 90s. So he obviously got that from Mad Max.
That's awesome.
And then um, just walk away speech, which watching this, all I could think of, there's two things I could think of. The episode of South Park where Butters does that voice, does that speech. I don't even remember what all was going on in that episode, but I just remember Butters wearing a mask and saying that. And I also realized that Lord Humongous sounds a lot like Splinter in the first Ninja Turtles movie.
That's funny.
For 15 years. Oh. Yeah, and I was wondering, like, that must have been that guy's real voice. Was that really that big Swedish dude's voice
I
of Lord
do
Humongous? Like,
I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like they may have dubbed over it since he had the mask,
yeah,
but I'm not
or at least
sure.
did it in post, but it didn't really have like a Swedish accent.
No.
Swedish or
Oh yeah, you want to give
Icelandish
us the
or
Gasene?
yeah. Just walk away. Oh man. Yeah, so I don't know if they had a different voice guy,
Yeah,
but
that information I'm not sure of.
he did sound like Master Splinter, so now go back and watch that scene and that's all you'll be able to think of. Yeah, I'm gonna look in the credits here and see if there was a, a voiceover.
But yeah, no, I mean, really all in all, I mean, we had good things to say about the characters in the first one. Good stuff, nothing too amazing.
Yeah,
Goose, was a pretty good character, memorable and everything, but here they just like, I mean, you've got Mad Max, of course, then you've got the Gyro Captain, and then you've
yeah.
got Humongous, you've got Wes. Even Wes has his little sidekick guy who gets killed. You got the feral kid. So, I mean, this one, they just really did a great job with creating memorable characters, I
Yeah.
think. So,
Man, that feral kid, that hair he had.
yeah.
Yeah, it looks like he should have been in like Slaughter or something. Huge, massive hair. Uh, he reminded me of the, um, like the feral cave boy or whatever it was in the old Land of the Lost show. I'm not sure anybody's gonna get that reference, but yeah, he reminded me of that. And he had that boomerang too. That
Yeah.
was like a blade, which made me think a little bit of Hard Ticket to Hawaii with the frisbee, but way more effective. I love when the lackey dude tries to catch it. He's like, "Oh, I've got it." He goes to grab it and lops his fingers off like butter.
Yeah.
That cracked me up. And then he ends up killing that woman that was with Wes too.
Was that a woman?
I'm pretty sure it was a woman.
I thought it was a guy.
I don't
It
know.
could
I
have
thought it
been.
was a really skinny woman with huge blonde hair.
I know. Like, I I feel like every time I watch this, I'm like, I don't know if that's supposed to be a woman or a guy.
Maybe she was just androgynous. I don't know.
Yeah. So either way, the
It was the 80s.
his little sidekick.
It could have been David Bowie for all I know.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, he kills that person,
And then Wes
and
freaks out.
yeah, and freaks out, and that's kind of what starts the vendetta, at least with him. Um, I'll say like the best action scenes in this definitely are towards the end when Max is in the big tanker
Hmm.
and they're flying down the road and like the bad guys are coming after him. And anytime like there's a high speed chase like that and like people are jumping from one car to another, um, I'm always there for it. It's like Fast and the Furious.
Yeah. I th-
That's that's what it reminded me of is the end of the first Fast and the Furious movie.
I don't know if because I did not see Fury Road when it came out because that was what, like 2015 or something like that.
Yeah, right around there.
So I saw it later, and I don't know if I've watched Mad Max 2 since I've seen Fury Road.
Okay.
So when I was watching the end of this movie with the tanker, I was just like, oh, dude, oh my gosh, so much Fury Road going on right now.
Yeah.
Like, so much of the same concept, like people on top of the tanker fighting off other people. Like, I don't, I mean, it's right there in front of your face. I don't know why I didn't make the connection. I mean, it just straight up because I hadn't seen Mad Max in a while. I kind of it was out of mind, but yeah, that was kind of cool to see because I mean, dude, heck, they did a good job back when they made this movie,
Hmm.
and then they did an amazing job in 2015 with Fury Road. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and Wes was on that motorcycle,
mhm.
and then during the battle too, like before Max gets before they decide that they're gonna get in that tanker and like put barbed wire and stuff around, he's got that huge flamethrower and he lights a dude on fire.
Hmm.
Anytime someone gets lit on fire, it's awesome too.
Yeah.
It's like people get lit on fire and head explosions are always awesome. We didn't get any of those though, unfortunately. Um, yeah, and then like the whole ending with they have this high speed chase, which is like balls to the wall and crazy at parts. And then it's just like they show Humongous flying towards Max in his car. Max is in a tanker. It like cuts back and forth a couple times, and then all of a sudden the car explodes. Like
Yeah.
Max just bulldozes it and crashes the tanker, and then the tanker tips over and a bunch of sand spews out of it.
Hmm.
Like they filled it with sand instead of gas.
Yeah, it was a decoy.
Yeah, and I was just wondering, like, would this truck be able to pull all that sand? Sand's pretty heavy.
Yeah. And yeah, I get that. And I was also kind of thinking, like, is it important that they put anything in it at all? Like,
Maybe more weight, more power, I guess.
maybe.
Be able to plow through things. Yeah, I don't know what the whole
Yeah.
idea of the sand was.
Oh, well, this yeah, that whole situation reminds me of two things. So it happens at the end, and it also happened, I think, kind of near the beginning and everything, which this part kind of annoyed me a little bit. Um, because yeah, so you talked about how the climax with killing Humongous was rather lame. And actually Wes and Humongous both died at the same time because they all crashed together.
Yeah,
Um, but then the dumb thing is that, and actually this kind of happened in the first one, I feel like too, where they had so after the crash, Max is on the ground, like he's hurt, he's banged up and kind of messed
yeah,
up. Everybody just scatters.
yeah.
Like nobody is just like, oh hey dude, let's go make sure we kill this guy. Um,
Right.
so they didn't do it that time. They also didn't do it at the beginning, which there was a little bit of an opportunity for them to do uh when they were first fighting with Max. I can't remember exactly how it went down. But then
Yeah.
also in the first movie, they did kind of the same thing too, where Max crashed and they went to go investigate, and one of the guys blew up, and then there were still some guys alive. And instead of them going down and finishing Max off or investigating more, they're like, "Oh, let's just get out of here."
Yeah. It's like, why don't we just go get a gun? I was like, we'll do it together. Just shoot him. You just don't get it, do you, Scott?
Right? That's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, this time they're like, ah, he's got to be dead, and they walk off. Uh, I, for how lame it was, is how Humongous met his end. Being part of that whole thing was Wes being on the front of the truck and getting like smashed.
Hmm.
Like that was pretty good. But I just wish that he would have had like a battle with Humongous. He was
Me too.
so like he was so like bombastic of a character that like it needed to happen.
There either needed to be more of an epic like road battle or some kind of like hand to hand combat. The other thing that was kind of lame too, this one didn't frustrate me as much because he wasn't as big of a character, but the leader of the, camp, um,
Hmm.
he was driving with Max and the tanker in the convoy.
Yeah.
He got taken out with like a spear or something,
Yeah.
like super easy. And it was just like, oh, okay, well, I guess he's dead and gone.
Didn't he get like shot in the leg or something? There was like that older man that was leader of that group. And he got shot in the leg. Then it was before Max like grabbed the flamethrower and started torching guys.
yeah, he was shot in the leg and he was
And he fell
injured,
down and he's like, ah.
but then he was driving because he was trying to
Ah,
help
that's
the
right.
the kid get off the tanker, and then I think Humongous came behind him and just threw a spear and hit him, and then he was dead just like that. I was like, oh, that was anticlimactic, but okay.
Yeah.
But we didn't really care about him anyways, so
Yeah, who cares about that guy?
yeah.
Oh. Oh, some things that kind of stand out to me in this movie. There's a scene right towards the beginning where Max meets the gyro captain,
Hmm.
and he's like, I know a place where there's a whole bunch of gas. So it's like, we'll go there. And they're camping out before they walk in, and Max opens up a can of dog food and starts eating it.
Yeah.
And it made me think of Riggs eating the milk bones.
Yeah.
Riggs. And he's got that Australian cattle dog with him.
Oh yeah. Not to steal information from you, but I got a note about that. The dog?
Yeah, I had something about that too.
Okay. I couldn't remember if I shared it with you or not. I mean,
That
I'm
that the dog was from the pound and they were actually gonna put him down.
oh, I didn't know that they were gonna put him down, but yeah, they
Yeah, they
got
were gonna
him.
put him down and then they like adopted him and then trained him for the movie.
Yeah, and also like the car engines actually upset him, and so they had to fit him with special earplugs. It's just like, dang man, like you guys went all out for this.
Yeah. That's Australians like their cattle dogs, I guess. I mean, there's Bluey,
Right.
so must be something about him.
Hmm.
Uh, I guess the things I think were the greatest, like I said, the feral kid's big hair was just kind of comical.
Hmm.
Like the kid's got a freaking mane. Uh, and then I wanted a fight between Humongous and Jack, or Jack Max for sure.
Yeah.
But, um, man, I think that's really all I've got. Was there anything else that you had?
Um, we didn't really talk about the gyro captain too much. But
Yeah, he was kind of a goofy weirdo guy.
yeah, he was a good ad
Yeah,
for a character because he wasn't a lot of times you gotta worry about those kind of characters that they shoehorn in there, that they're like too much and forced
yeah,
in there. But first of
like a
all, like
wacky sidekick.
yeah, the concept fit, like um some scavenger guy, that basically winds up following Max because Max technically doesn't really want anything to do with him after he's done with him.
Yeah.
But then bringing a little different element in with his little helicopter plane thing. So that I thought actually worked pretty well. And oh, I'll save that for later.
It was
But
fun watching him bomb the bad guys too, like from above.
mhm.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was one of those things where I was just like, man, I feel like he'd be relatively easy to take out though.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. It wasn't like the most advanced flying machine.
Yeah.
It seems like you could have easily just shot him down.
hmm Well, the cool another interesting thing to mention though about this is that this one so there were more cars and gizmo gadget things, I don't know if you want to call it like that. However, it kind of felt like this was more of a confined movie set
Okay.
than the first one because the first one had the little towns, it had the police station, and
Well, there's more driving in the first one too.
yeah, there was more driving and things like that. And still there was some driving in this one, but it felt like they were able to accomplish a lot more in a very small space.
Yeah, it wasn't
And
as expansive.
yeah, but they still like, I mean, it doesn't really feel like that too much. I mean, I have to imagine a little bit with certain areas of Australia that you get pretty free roam. Like you're not really exactly going to run into somebody if you're building a set in the middle of the outback.
Right.
So, but yeah, it worked out well for them because they didn't need a whole lot for this one.
Yeah, it's
So
true.
they just basically made that encampment out in the middle of the field or the sand field, whatever. And then the rest of it, like, heck, they could have been on the other side of a mountain or just like turned the camera and you wouldn't have even known it. And it would have felt like you were in the middle of nowhere.
Yep. Yeah. It definitely doesn't feel as expansive. And I really think it has to do with how much driving there was in the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And, like you said, there was the towns and they also went into like different buildings. Where this one there was like no buildings.
Yeah.
So you
No.
don't really get an idea of like the geography because everything's just flat out back.
Yeah.
Um,
Trivia facts.
yeah, I guess I don't really have anything else. Um, Sorry to mention this one, but the dog used in the film was simply named Dog and was obtained from a local dog pound. It was trained to perform for the film because the sound of the engines upset him. Like you said, they fit him with special earplugs. After filming was complete, he was adopted by one of the camera operators.
Rock.
One of the spectacular stunts of the film, in which a motorcycle riding Raiders hits a car, flies off the bike, smashes his legs against the car, and cartwheels through the air towards the camera, was actually done a was it yeah was actually a genuine and nearly fatal accident. The stuntman was just supposed to fly over the car without hitting it. He survived, but his legs were like badly broken.
Oh gosh. Dude,
Yeah, the
I know
moment looked so
exactly what scene that
dramatic and it was
was.
kept in the film. Yeah.
I know exactly what scene that was because I saw it and I was like, dang, dude, that's like really well shot.
Yeah,
And go figure, it was an accident.
right. So Mel Gibson only has 16 lines of dialogue in the entire movie,
That's hilarious. I didn't even
and
think
two
about
of them are "I only came for gasoline."
that.
Mel went into filming or the filling station, aka the gas station, in Agora Hills, California, in March of 2024, ironically to buy gasoline container. Um, Mike Johansson was working there, and while Mel was going to get it, Mike casually quoted, "I only came here for gasoline." Mel didn't get the joke right away, but eventually remarked, "Oh, that's what you meant." Yeah. Uh, So Humongous was originally supposed to be Max's partner Jim Goose. The
Oh,
production decided against this, but left a few hints, such as the horrible burns behind Humongous's goalie mask. His raiders used police vehicles and his own use of a similar weapon to the MFP standard sidearm.
interesting.
Yeah,
Huh. I feel I feel like if they did that, that should have been like a plot line by itself. Like this whole like little gasoline camp would
yeah,
not really have been necessary. Like you could have had its own dynamic between him and Goose. I don't think that would have bothered me too much. Like
no,
that's kind of an interesting concept.
yeah. So the tanker roll stunt at the end of the chase was deemed so dangerous that the stunt driver was not allowed to eat any food 12 hours before they shot, and in the likely event that he would have to be rushed into surgery.
My gosh.
Yeah. So James Cameron cited this as one of his influences for the Terminator. In Terminator 2 Judgment Day, John Connor's dog was named Max.
Nice.
Although it might not look like it, the location was actually extremely cold. Mel Gibson would spend his time in between takes huddled under blankets, despite being dressed in a leather outfit, while the Marauders suffered in particular with their costumes, which deliberately exposed their butts. So after Mad Max was finished, and before the film's release, all the cars were supposed to be destroyed, including the Black Interceptor. But someone thought the Interceptor was too good to lose, so they saved it from the Crusher. The sequel was in its planning stage when someone found out that the Interceptor had somehow survived, so they tracked it down and bought it back.
And I wonder if they got good money for it.
Right? I wonder. Um, so the dog was actually really fond of Bruce Spence, the gyro captain.
Okay.
For scenes where the dog was supposed to act aggressive towards him, Spence would play with the dog, encouraging him to bite his scarf. Combined with some clever editing and overdubbed growling, this friendly tug of war made the dog seem much more aggressive on camera.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Contributing to the cost of production, the most expensive set ever constructed for an Australian film was the desert compound built in the desert of Broken Hill, New South Wales, Australia. The production also boasted the largest explosion ever in an Australian film, which was when they destroyed the above set.
Hmm.
So renamed the Road Warrior for North American distribution because at the time the original Mad Max had only been released there on a limited basis. So Mad Max 2 is a title outside of North America, um, and it would have confused viewers.
Huh.
Because it was filmed out in a remote region of the Australian outback, the production team would have to wait 2 to 3 days before they could actually see the dailies.
Hmm.
And the last thing I got is this movie cost $3 million and it made 23.6 in the box office. And then
Wow.
grades. IMDb, Rotten Tomatoes, what are they?
IMDb 6.9.
7.6.
Oh, dang. Nice big jump up there. 91%.
94.
Oh, dang it. 89 for audience.
86.
Okay. Not bad.
And then I guess I'll go first this time because you went first last time.
Okay.
I did like this movie better than the other one. Uh, like I said, it left me wanting a couple things. I wanted the um humongous and Max to have like a fight towards the end, and I wanted humongous to like have a better death scene. And I mean, it is what it is. It is still like kind of a fast-paced, high action movie for the most part through the whole thing. And I don't know, I enjoy it more than the first movie. The first movie was had too many slow parts for me. It
Mm.
was really kind of dull at times, but I don't know. I guess I'm grading this one a little lower than maybe I should. I'm hoping maybe um Beyond Thunderdome's better. But I ended up falling on a 4 out of 5. So it's better than the first one, but it left me wanting a little bit more.
Rock. Yeah, no, I actually think that's fair because so going back to kind of what I said about the original Mad Max, I graded a little bit higher because I was giving it a little bit of a benefit of the doubt because, you know, it was an unknown movie. Like it wasn't really it set the stage.
Yeah, it's a classic.
Yeah. And so I gave it a little bit of a bump up. I put it at four out of five. I felt like I was being a little generous. Now I am also giving Mad Max 2 a 4 out of 5, and that is like a solid 4 out of 5 because like
Rock.
it deserves it. It's well done. It's really good. It's not it's kind of odd because I feel I don't want it to be taken like I'm saying that I feel like there's any problems with it. It's
Hmm.
just not reaching that extra level of greatness. Like it took a step up from the first one, but I'm not really giving it a higher point grade just because I was giving a little bit of a benefit of doubt to the first one. So they leaned into what was working for them. Like they did more vehicles, they did a lot better villains. They made them kind of more cohesive, more menacing, more post-apocalyptic style. They added some good characters, some memorable characters. Exactly as you said, this movie just flowed a lot better. The cinematography continued and worked out great. The special effects and the stunts worked out really well too. So just going in the right direction. Um, but yeah, I if I never seen this before and I didn't know some of what else was coming, I may have given it a 4.5 out of 5. But I feel really good giving it the 4 out of 5.
Rock. So yeah, I'm interested to see where the rest of the series goes. Um, I have seen Fury Road. It was probably like it might have been last year or something, just recently. But like I said, I don't think I've seen all of um Beyond Thunderdome. So very interested to see what that's like. But if you guys are liking the show, please subscribe and share. You can follow us on social media. We're on pretty much every platform. Check out our YouTube. We got lots of stuff going up on there. And if you guys are liking the Mad Max month, then come by next week and we are going to be talking about Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And until then, as always, be kind and rewind.